once you master self-love, all of those problems where you lack boundaries, where you put others in front of you, where you engage with people who don't reciprocate your energy, will actually start to fade away. Self-love solves so many of our problems because we start to naturally have these boundaries up and we start to naturally attract the right people into our lives. And a lot of our problems stop appearing because we have self-love. Do you struggle with self-love? Do you find yourself putting others' needs over yours? Do you find yourself wasting your time on people who do not reciprocate your energy? Do you struggle with people pleasing and not setting boundaries for yourself? If you have said yes to any of those questions, then I can safely assume that you also struggle with one thing that is at the core of all of these problems. And if we address the core, all these other problems will dissolve. I'm talking about self-love. In this video, we're going to talk about how a lack of self-love is the issue, the core issue to all these problems. And we're also going to talk about how I rarely struggle with a lack of self-love, why that is, and what I do to maintain my self-love. Hey guys, my name's Bradley Marcus I'm here to teach people, to show them the path of happiness within. I do this through different ways of teaching, but they are always backed and based in Buddhist practice and philosophy. So thank you for joining this video. Let's talk a little bit about self-love. So first things first, self-love is not taught, and actually low self-worth is actually what is taught in our society. Now this problem goes all the way back to our childhoods because that's where we learn a lot of these unhealthy patterns. It's not your fault, and it's not even your family's fault. It's really more society's fault. Because if we taught self-love at a young age to everybody, it would break the cycle that is currently happening of low self-worth in the society. And unless your parents are literally enlightened beings, you're going to have some traumas, you're going to have some issues from your childhood. Remember, an enlightened being is somebody who understands the truth of reality, like the Buddha or Jesus Christ. They're somebody that expresses love and kindness at every single turn. And there's somebody who doesn't take offense when something goes wrong. And there's somebody who doesn't hold attachment or craving to certain things. Now, these are some advanced Buddhist topics that we can dive into a little bit later. But my main point is that we have such a lack of self-love in our society because we are all so reactive to things. And when there's a child running around in our lives and we're reacting to things, well, that child's going to pick up on that energy and there's going to be some traumas created. And it's because we're just human. We're just reacting to things as humans do, but it's our goal as humans to work towards being better and become better people overall. Now in Buddhism, there's actually a path on how to become enlightened. And I'm going to teach you a little bit about that path later in this video. But first, I want to tell you a story about myself and my own path to self-love. Now, while my parents did get divorced when I was around 7 years old, I grew up in a very loving family. I was always hugged and I was always shown love. Even after my parents got divorced, they still made the efforts to show that love to me and made sure that I understood that I was loved. Now, one thing that my dad did that not many parents do, I think, is a huge reason why I love myself. So after my parents got divorced, my dad would take us on these road trips. And on these road trips, we'd have hours and hours driving across the country, and he would play different types of tapes. Now, the tapes that he would play were self-help tapes by different people like Brian Tracy, or for example, that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. These self-help tapes taught me some amazing things at a very young age. I was around 7 or 8 years old. And that's when your brain really starts to develop the reactionary patterns that we all have. Now, Brian Tracy has a method for self-love that was really impactful in my life. The self-love exercise is really simple. You go and you look at yourself in the mirror and you say the words, I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. If this seems a little cheesy to you, that's okay. But you'll find that if you can go into the mirror and start to say these words to yourself, it might bring you to tears. Now, if it's uncomfortable, you can start with the words, I like myself. I like myself. And if you really struggle with that, I want you to pick something about yourself when you look in the mirror that you like about yourself. It can be, oh, I like that I hold doors open for people. I like that I am kind to my little brother and sister. But when you start by picking at one thing, then you can start to find more things and you start to uncover all these beautiful things that you like about yourself. And the more you start saying these words, I like myself, you'll eventually build up to I love myself. It's really important that when you say these words, you also really feel that love. But if you struggle with that, then I want you to think of somebody that you do love. Think of like a friend or a partner, and then imagine that love that you have for them being directed towards you. If you'd like, I can create a meditation that will guide you through this a bit more, but this is the basic concept of the self-love exercise that Brian Tracy taught me at a young age. Just because I listened to these tapes, I still had to put that effort in to build that self-love. At around 8, 9, 10 years old, I would go and look at myself in the mirror and say those words. I love myself. I love myself. I did it again when I was 13, 14, 15, and I've done it even up to this day still, building and maintaining that self-love, those neural networks in my brain that help me love myself. Let's talk about some different things that you can do right now to start building your own self-love, because I'm sure if you're watching this video, you might not love yourself and maybe you weren't taught these exercises at a young age. I'm going to teach you certain old and new exercises that I think are really helpful. Number one, start meditating. You're going to have to do this if you want to have self-love, and you're going to have to do this if you want to end your own suffering. I know meditation can seem boring to some people, but once you dive into it, it becomes a beautiful thing, something that you can relate to, something you can lean on in tough times, and something that will actually change your life. Because meditation has been scientifically proven to change the way our brains work and function for the better. Meditation is not casting spells. Meditation is not the work of the devil. Meditation is simply observing reality. It's going within oneself and observing reality and ourselves for what they truly are. We do this by quieting the mind in meditation, and quieting the mind allows us to simply observe what's really happening. Meditation is not against God. If you're religious, it's not against Christianity or Judaism. It is simply a practice of looking within. The reason we need meditation is because we need to develop our mindfulness. Mindfulness is just simply being mindful of certain things. What we're going to develop is our mindfulness of thought. What mindfulness of thought is being aware of what you're thinking. So that way you can start to catch negative thoughts and not engage with them and not think about them so much. And if I want to go a step further, I can question them. Is that true? No, that's not true. And if I want to go even a step further, I can then replace them with a positive thought. So meditation gives us the mindfulness of thought and allows us to pay attention to our thoughts so we don't go down these negative rabbit holes that lead to depression and anxiety and low self-worth. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to start doing the Brian Tracy exercise of self-love. You're going to go into the mirror and say the words, I love myself. And finally, self-love maintenance. These are things that are going to happen throughout your daily life where you might need to reassure yourself that you love yourself. You might need to say it to yourself when you're having a bad day. You might need to say it when somebody is treating you poorly. And once you master self-love, all of those problems where you lack boundaries, where you put others in front of you, where you engage with people who don't reciprocate your energy, will actually start to fade away. The reason it'll start to fade away is because naturally, when you have self-love, you don't engage in situations or relationships that make you feel poor about yourself. We can't control what other people do to us. If they treat us poorly, we can't control that. But we can control how we react, and we can control if we go back to that person and spend time with them again. I've done it myself. Even with all this self-love, I've given energy to people, and I realize that they're not reciprocating it. So I recognize that with my mindfulness of thought and my mindfulness of what's happening. And I say, you know what? That was unfortunate. I wish that didn't happen, but now I'm just not going to engage with this person ever again. Self-love solves so many of our problems because we start to naturally have these boundaries up, and we start to naturally attract the right people into our lives. And a lot of our problems stop appearing because we have self-love. Do you want a self-love meditation? If you do, let me know in the comments below and tell me, do you love yourself? Actually, better yet, why don't you right now leave in the comments a few I love myselfs. Say it 5 to 10 times. I want you to type it out, and each time you type the words I love myself, I want you to say it out loud. All right, we can get a huge self-love comment stream here, and I think it would be a beautiful thing. And if you're struggling with self-love, if you're struggling with depression or anxiety, I hope that these practices can help you. And remember, guys, it is a practice. These things take work, but once you get that momentum going, just like learning a language and practicing that language, you start to get better and better, and pretty soon it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. I just said that. All right, guys, I love you, and may you be well. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope to see you soon.